All right. Nice. Start off with a great voice crack. Welcome to a Game Sound Club's first session of um 2021 fall. Uh yeah, as you could probably look at this, you'd be like, "Hmm." If you were here last year, you'd be like, "Hmm, this is familiar, but this isn't the branding I recognize from this year." So, bah! Yeah, in case you haven't noticed, we got a new logo. We got new purple slides. Um, yeah, and to those of you that are new here, that was our old logo and slide deck. This is New Coke. Um, yeah, and today we're going to be getting you interested in game sound or trying our darndest to do that. And yeah, if you're here, we hope you have at least a little tiny bit of interest in it. But even if it's just something like needing the basics to put sound in your game, or just a better idea of what you need sound wise, this should help out a bit. So yeah, today we're just getting into yeah, the basics of that sort of thing. Eh? Alrighty. Okay, so what is this? What is this club? Um, as you've probably heard from us about 40 times if you were at either the AGM or any of the GDW classes that we've invaded, or or at the Get Involved fair, we we're all about sounds. We're one stop shop for everything you're gonna hear in a game. Um, and as always, not strictly for game sound, even though our name suggests that's where our focus is primarily going to be. But since a lot of the stuff we've got in store is pretty generalized, even if you've got a passing interest in audio, I'm sure there's going to be something that'll catch your interest. Um, so yeah, our sessions are most of the time just informative with examples of techniques and all that good stuff from games, music, film thrown in there. And eventually we'll be doing some live examples and demonstrations as well, of like different techniques like implementing audio, chopping it up and making adaptive music, all that fun stuff. But as always, we're always open to any and all feedback. So if there's anything you'd want to see or learn about, we'd be happy to see what we can do and slot it in. And yeah, our main focus is mainly on being informative though, since there's just the one mandatory sound class and the one that occasionally happens. So we're trying to do what we can to fill in all the gaps that are um left there. And yeah, like I said, today's pretty much just a high level overview of all the stuff you'll need to get started, and like different roles that are applied to sound. So, for once again, if you're at the AGM or any of the GW things, just gonna introduce ourselves, the members of the team. We're the same guys as last year. I'm Carter. We got Anthony, Daniel, and Hamraj. Um, you'll probably know Hamraj as that annoying guy in GDSA, whatever that club is. Um, yeah, if everyone wants to say hi, you can, I guess.
Hello.
Oh god.
What? What is that?
Don't worry about it.
No.
And oh, and
Alright.
Hamraj isn't even in here anymore. Jeez.
Wait,
There we go. Game sound.
no, you gotta give him the ah. Give him the ah.
All right, do the
Ah.
Let's go.
All right. And Hamraj isn't
It's
here,
too
but we
funny.
don't
I'm
care about
sorry.
him.
Camera straight up left. He's
He
gone.
did. Useless man. Anyways, yeah, that's who we are. Same people as last year. You're gonna get very annoyed by all four of us. Um, and good. All right, so that's who we are. So what does sound people even do, right? Like you look at a game, you're like, okay, I'm gonna mute this anyways, but there's got to be at least more than one thing playing at all times, right? So pretty much, the gist of it is there are three main roles that pretty much every game audio role kind of falls under. Um, and just to give you like a brief idea, we're just gonna go over the three of them, all couple of different things that fall under each of them, and yeah, what they do. So first kind of batch, we got the sound designers, right? So they're the ones that are usually making, recording, or just finding the right sound for something in a game. And usually it's some form of a mix between doing Foley, which is making noise in a studio environment to simulate what you want, usually. So that dropping the bowling ball thing, that would probably be.
Hey, Carter, not to disrupt your flow, but you might want to change the slide.
I did.
It doesn't show on the. There you
Oh.
go.
Okay, I just looked at Discord and it said I got disconnected for a second. So that was great. Thanks, internet. Uh All right, I'm going to start this over. Sorry about that. Your stream is still running. Yeah, of course it is, Discord. Don't lie to me. But yeah, sound designers. They're the ones making, recording, finding the right sound. And usually that's involving Foley, which is the picture on the left, which is usually like, okay, you have a studio, you're making the noise in there, you're making it in a controlled environment, you're probably using some weird assortment of objects to make the sound you want, and you wouldn't really expect that sound to come out of it, but eventually when you edit it together, boom, it sounds like the thing you want. And then there's also field recording, which is on the picture on the right, which is usually just going out to a spot and recording sounds directly. So this could be stuff like going to the middle of a forest to record some just natural ambience, going to like a racetrack or something, recording cars speeding by, or being in the car recording that. Or if you've seen videos of like military bases, people record a lot of stuff there, or like gun ranges, for games. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in field recording as well. Or the third option, you could use libraries to find the right sound, because libraries are fantastic. But any way you slice it, however you end up with the sounds, a good chunk of this role is going to be editing the sounds to get them exactly how you want and to make them yours. So this includes stuff like adding layers of different sounds, adding effects on top, tweaking different levels, and a lot more. So like I briefly touched on, sound libraries are great. You're going to want to use them. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to use sound libraries. Some libraries have enough stuff that you could pretty much just download it and then take stuff and slap it right in the game without tweaking anything, and it's perfect. But chances are a lot of the time you're going to want to do some editing to it, just to make it your own. So that's what sound designers kind of encompass, all the sound effects. And now on to music. So composers, they're the people that do the music. They write the music.
I think Gordon.
That is Mick Gordon, yeah. It's live at the Game Awards. Great show. So and you got cheeky little Hans Zimmer in the corner too. Had to throw that in. But anyways, composers pretty much do one key thing. They write the music for the game. So this could be as simple as doing it the old school way of getting a loop that's a couple bars long and just looping that for the entire level, or going the more modern way of making full-on adaptive music that changes depending on a ton of different game states. But either way, for our purposes in this program, it'll probably lie with the composer to make it work in the game, getting all the parts to work in the right spots and getting it all working however it's meant to. So if you're feeling fancy, live recording could also be done. But I'm going to bet that nobody in the program really has the resources to hire like a full orchestra or anything crazy like that. So we can probably safely limit that to an instrument or two. And thus, knowing basic instrument or knowing basic music theory will really help you out here for writing music. And knowing an instrument like piano in particular is pretty crucial as well to what you're doing here. Then after that, after everything's all written or recorded, then comes all the production stuff like mixing and mastering to make it all game ready, which we'll cover all of that in more detail eventually. But the mixing and mastering part, that is usually lumped in with the composer. A very big thing to point out though, if you don't have or if you don't have anyone particularly musical on your team, or don't have the time or resources to write original music for your game, that is totally okay. A ton of teams out there don't have that. Most teams, I would wager, don't have that, especially like smaller indie studios. So you can find tons of free music packs or royalty free music packs or purchase music packs with a ton of stuff in it. You can find that to slap in your game. Tons of asset stores have them. I know the Unity asset store has them. The itch.io store has a lot of stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can just take out there that's royalty free, make it a loop, and call it a day, slap it in the game. And honestly, that's perfectly fine. That's putting sound in your game, and that's one step closer, right? All right, so you got sound effects, you got music, and now we got voiceover stuff. So this is the last of the big three roles in sound for games. And usually this includes stuff like writing the script, directing voice actors, or friends that you played D&D with and know enough to know that you can, or that they can pull off different voices. This also includes stuff like recording yourself doing voice work, and the ever daunting task of editing and post process work for the voiceover sessions. Nothing really crazy to note here since it's pretty simple and straightforward. But the editing in particular is something I will want to touch on super quick. One way that I've done it, and many industry pros have done it, from what I've seen, is just hitting record at the start of a session and letting it just run for the entirety that they're doing their thing. So usually this ends up with like one giant wave file that's like anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes, from my experience at least. So your mileage may vary. And then from there, you just take that file, make a copy, and then chop it up into each of the takes. And then from there, you just go through, pick the best takes, apply all the effects and stuff, and then boom, export each of them. It's a pretty long process, and it's pretty tedious, but like especially if it's your own voice, it can get a little weird hearing yourself for that long. But it's a process that really works. And we're not really taught that, so just wanted to briefly touch on that here. We will get into voiceover work later on in the year, of course, in a bit more detail, but brief overview and all that. So now chances are pretty high that if you're doing sound stuff, or if you want to do sound stuff, you're going to be doing all three of these things for your team. That being said, not every game needs voiceover. Not every game needs even more than a couple sounds for actions that the player does. And not every game needs a ridiculous amount of music that changes as you play. So just picking and choosing what you need for your specific game is really the way to go. Especially when you're first starting out, because it can be super overwhelming to be like, oh, I need this, 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 and this. I need to be really good at writing music that changes. I need to hire Nolan North to voice my game. I need, actual like tanks for sound effects. Like, you don't need all that. Chances are you can get away with a lot when you're first starting out. However, being familiar with all of these different roles can really help build your skills across all three of them. So you do voiceover work, you do recording for a voice session, boom, you got better at recording. That applies to music and for sound effects. You got through a long editing session of a bunch of sound effects, boom, you're going to use that same editing and applying effects and stuff to music and voiceover stuff. So all three of these, while being three very distinct groups of sound, you're definitely gonna benefit from kind of just trying all of them. All right. With all the roles out of the way, I just want to get into some of the necessities you're gonna need, and just kind of build up in terms of accessibility. But everything we're touching on here is pretty much just like pretty entry level stuff. Um, and we're definitely keeping in mind that we're all students, so the cheaper way to go about this is probably better. So we're definitely going to talk about that. But yeah, just some necessities to get started. And to start off, DAWs and audio editors. So DAWs are digital audio workstations. And if you check the resources channel in a minute, there will be a bunch of links to a ton of these, like all the free options. Um, but yeah, these are some of the stuff that you're going to be using pretty much day and night if you're going to do sound stuff. Um, but just a bit of about the difference between DAWs and audio editors. Because they're all audio editing programs, but they're just kind of like two flavors of them. And it can be a little confusing, but generally speaking, DAWs, DAWs, digital audio workstations, they will have multi-track support. They're going to have, like particularly with recording, being able to record multi-track. Um, they usually have a piano roll, virtual instruments, and are usually non-destructive, which means if you apply effects to something, the original file will remain intact, and you can take off the effect, layer like 6 effects onto it, do all that kind of stuff, and the original file will be fine. And they usually have a sequencer as well, which is like, it's basically just a piano roll, which is the piano. And then you can be like, okay, this note, this note, this note, and then it plays it in sequence, hence the name. So that's usually what a DAW has, whereas an editor will be mainly focused around editing a single audio file, um, which sometimes offers multi-track support, like in the case of Audacity, um, and more often than not will be destructive to the original file. So you're going to want to save a lot of copies, which basically means, hence, or with non-destructive being you apply an effect and the original file is fine. With destructive programs, you have a file, you apply a distortion to it, that file is now distorted if you hit save. So definitely make copies often. So DAWs can most of the times do everything that an editor can do, but getting an editor to do everything that a DAW can do, 9 times out of 10 it ain't happening. Otherwise, it would be a DAW. So you'll likely want one editor and one DAW if you're doing everything sound related. But honestly, just having Audacity can get you through a ton of stuff if you need a quick, dirty, and lightweight solution. However, it is a little sus right now because it was bought out and there's a few weird spyware things going on with it. It's awesome. I would highly recommend Audacity, but I will not recommend letting it access the internet. So if you get Audacity, definitely put a firewall on that. But Ardour is a pretty decent replacement as well. And just a couple ones that I wrote down. We got SoundForge, great audio editor. I use that, but it's kind of pricey as well, so I wouldn't recommend it for just starting out. You got Studio One 5 Prime. You got Waveform 11. You got Reaper, which you can just kind of extend the trial forever if you wanted to, but it's really good, so I would recommend Reaper. You got Cakewalk. You got FL Studio, which has a demo that has everything in it. You just can't save and reopen projects. So it's great if you want to test out FL Studio, which I also use. You got LMMS, you got Bosca Choil, and then a couple others. You got Nuendo and Sonar. I noticed in the chat, Ableton, not recommended. I would absolutely recommend Ableton. I just was running out of room. So pretty much nowadays, there's a ridiculous amount of DAWs out there, and pretty much all of them are great. So it's very hard to do do wrong with a DAW in this day and age. Which is great because variety. All right, I'm gonna catch my breath for a second. Okay, so you got the stuff, you got it edited. Now you want to put it in the game, right? So you're gonna use middleware. Middleware is the thing that you use to put the audio in the game. They're usually called audio engines, as well as middleware. That's stuff like Fmod. You got Wise. You got Cry ADX2, and then a couple others. But basically, what they do is they basically they take the sound, they compress it, they get it in the right format, they tie it to events, and then in engine like Unity or your own custom engine, if you're in second year, they will basically just pull the events from the bank files and then play the sound. And they are the best thing that has ever happened to game sound. So right off the top, Fmod's free. It's the big one for us. It's what we'll pretty much be doing, using for all the club related things. You'll be using it a lot in the game sound class as well. I would pretty much, I would put Fmod on a pedestal, to be honest. It's fantastic for indie projects. And it's really widely used across the industry. Like games like Celeste use it. And it is really powerful. And then you got a second option, the other main big one. You got Wise, or WWise if you're feeling weird, which is also free to use. It's the other big one in the industry, pretty much used everywhere you look. And you'll often see it used in relation with like Unreal Engine games. But yeah, it's super powerful. We might be taking a look at it at some point in this club. Not entirely sure yet. Just because that would be a bit out of the comfort zone of pretty much everybody, and nobody would be really using it. Just because we all use Fmod, but I don't know, might happen. And just a couple other solutions that you can use. You got Fabric, which is based in Unity. It might be something we look at some point because it's pretty lightweight, from what I've seen, and easy to use. You got Elias, you got Cryware's ADX2, which is also pretty popular. You got Master Audio, you got Rad Game Tools Miles Sound System, and then you got in-engine stuff like Unity's built-in system and Unreal's built-in system, which are both surprisingly really good. All right, and now onto the hardware that you're going to need. Now, a lot of this is on a case-by-case basis, and there's a lot you can get away with when just starting out, and there's a lot you can get if you really want to go overboard. But generally, since we're just starting out here, and we're all students, so we're broke, this is a super basic list of just a couple things you're going to need, without going overkill. Prime among them, you're going to want a good headset, or solid pair of speakers, or studio monitors. That's pretty much the only thing that's 100% necessary, because you got to know if this stuff sounds good in the first place, right? Chances are, though, if you're gamers, you'll probably already have a decent headset. Like most gaming headsets are pretty decent. So yeah, even just a decent headset, that'll get you pretty okay mileage. An audio interface is a pretty solid second. So you got the Focusrite Scarlett in the bottom left. That's a really good starter interface. It's pretty cheap. It's like just over $100, I believe, or like 150 or something. And basically what that is it's a dedicated sound unit that'll take care of inputs. It'll route to different studio monitors that you have, and will give you the high quality recording sound that you deserve. There's one in the lab, and myself having the exact same one at home. I'm talking to you through it right now. And I've been using it for well over a year now. It's a really good starter interface. And while there's only two inputs, like on the Focusrite Scarlett, That's honestly more than enough for what you'll need for what you'll be doing. Next up, we got microphones, which you'll need if you plan on recording anything. Even something like even something cheap like a snowball is better than a headset or a built-in laptop mic. So absolutely always use a decent tool for the job. Whew, my throat. So once again, the lab, that's got a snowball in the sound booth. So for any recording you need, if you need a decent mic and an audio interface, go to the lab. It's got the interface and it's got a snowball. So yeah, if you don't have something yourself, definitely go in there when it's available and when it's open, when it's safe to do so, and that'll get you there. Kind of tying into microphones is a field recorder, which I tossed a picture of a nice old Tascam in the bottom right. Field recorder is basically exactly what it says on the tin. It's a portable microphone for field recording. So unless you're serious about making this work or already have one lying around for some reason, generally don't worry about this and just use your phone instead for recordings on the go, because most phones these days most phones these days I haven't talked this much in a long time, can you tell? Most phones these days have pretty decently good audio recording quality if you get the settings right. So usually you'll just have to go into the settings and be like, okay, make this uncompressed and make it X sample rate. I know that my iPhone can do that at least, so I'm sure much better phones out there can do that. But yeah, and one thing I do want to say, none of these are really a given anyways. A good headphones or speaker system, that is a given because you're going to need to hear if it sounds right. But even a decent microphone, if you really want to go for a certain aesthetic, you can record directly into your laptop. And if you play your cards right, edit it right, you can pull that off. For my team's second year game, we had a couple robot enemies, and their lines I recorded on my laptop in the kitchen. So a ton of reverb, ton of room noise. It was a horrible place to record, but I did it. And after applying enough effects, it was just like 4 or 5 effects, I think. It turned out great, and it really fit the vibe that the robots gave off. So you can definitely do anything you want there, and if it works, it works. That's the beauty of sound. All right. And beyond that, just to kind of start to wrap up the session, if you're really serious about making it work as a sound designer, a composer, voice actor artist, or voiceover artist, director, editor, anything sound related, there will be a ton of skills that you're going to need to develop. And when just slapped down in a big list like this, it can be a little overwhelming. But like I kind of touched on earlier with all 3 of the roles are probably going to be something you're going to do. Focusing in on one thing at a time, so like just editing or something like that, can really help ease the process. Because once you start learning one thing, you'll develop skills in another place, you'll develop skills in like 3 other places, and then it'll just keep building that cascading effect, and boom, you've acquired a ton of skills. So yeah, this list does cover pretty much most of it. But generally speaking, it all comes down to one big thing: never stop learning. So to plug ourselves, we're gonna be doing a lot of, we're gonna be doing as much as we can to get a lot of these things covered. But there is still a lot of self-learning you're gonna want to inevitably need to do, as with every discipline in this program and most things in life, if you really want to go far with this. So yeah, that's a big list of stuff. We're going to touch on a lot of it. The business one in particular, I'm really excited about. Um, I've read I read an entire like textbook over the summer planning this stuff, so I am really hyped to share a lot of this stuff with you guys. And at the end of the day, sound is a third of the game experience, with gameplay and visuals being the other two. Sorry, GPC. Um, but so yeah, there's a lot to learn about it.
Take
So
them
don't
down from the inside. Sorry, what my mic was on.
look at this guy, this clown. Oh my god. All right. But yeah, there's a lot to learn. You're gonna fail. Just to put it bluntly. Don't expect everything to work the first time. But that's not to say that it won't. So if it does work, that's awesome. Keep at it. Keep trying new things. If it doesn't work, awesome. Keep at it. Keep trying different things. Try out a different approach, different idea. Um, and eventually you'll find something. Um, the beauty of game sound, to me at least, is that there is so much room for creative expression, and just seeing what you can do is honestly half the fun. So always be willing to try something out, even if you're not sure if it'll work perfectly. Because at the end of the day, if you figure out, or if you fail 15 times to make the right sound you want, that's still progress. You've still been working. You'll still be improving in some way. Um, and yeah, just a couple other things that are beyond you're gonna fail and keep trying things. Um, a couple tips I read in that book was to always keep writing and always push to make something. So even if you're in like a creative slump, you're not feeling like writing a piano ballad or whatever your game needs. Um, Instead of just pushing your face further into the grindstone, take a step back, like go for like a 5 minute walk around the block or something, spin around a few times, or just start working on like a bunch of sound effects that need to be done, and then go back to it.
I'm a programmer.
Don't do that. There are so many better ways to live your life. Um,
Become an
oh
artist.
my god, Hamrush, I hate you. um, but yeah, that's something that you're gonna want to do. Never wait for inspiration, because realistically, you're not gonna have time in the real world in any of these disciplines. So learning out or feeling out different ways that you could be like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere with this. Let me try something different for a little bit. Or okay, I need a break. I'm just gonna go walk down the street until I smack my face into a stop sign. Then I'll turn around and boom, something hit me. So you never know what can happen, but don't wait for inspiration. Always try to make something. Always push yourself to make something, because you never know what can come out. Yeah, always be willing to try something new, and keep trying new things. And a really cool music thing, at least, is try to listening to genres that you haven't heard before or don't usually listen to, and then try to mix them together. Um, so like there's a lot of really unique things that you can do with that. We'll touch on that a bit more in future sessions, but yeah, mixing genres for games in particular is mwah, chef's kiss. It is really good. And once again, if you don't know piano, you should try to learn piano. And if you already know piano, that's awesome. Um, but you should also learn another instrument. Um, because put it quite simply, more instruments means more experience to build off of. If you only have, like, if you have a really wide painter's palette and you have a giant canvas that you need to paint, if you just have one color, there's not a ton you can do with that. But the more colors you add to your palette, you're like, okay, I can paint some really cool things and really use the colors in the way they're meant to be used. So for me at least, I started off with piano, and then when I was like 7 or 8, I think I started playing drums. But now as a guitarist and bassist mainly, um, drums really, I don't know, my knowledge of drumming from that, from learning it as a child, has really helped shape the percussive side of my music. So, um, at least something I try to do, is I try to really emphasize different parts of the drum beat, really try to make it work for that piece instead of just doing a basic beat. So the more instruments you know, and the more you know them, the more you can build them into, or weave them into rather, the unique piece, and then throw in mixing genres together. Boom, you got a giant canvas. It's great. A lot of stuff you could do there. And yeah, to absolutely plug ourselves in the best way possible. Um, just one last thing about learning. uh, Practically every session we did last year is up on YouTube to watch, and we're doing the same thing this year. To build up a nice old collection of knowledge to reference if you ever need to. So if you want to get a head start on some of the stuff we're inevitably going to cover, again, definitely check out some of that stuff to hear how chaotic it was last year as well. Links for those are in the recorded sessions channel on Discord. And yeah, there's a lot that we covered. So if you're new, or if you missed a couple sessions last year, or if you went to all the sessions last year and just want a refresher on some things, definitely check that out. We appreciate it. And yeah, we love to see that because it shows that our work paid off, and that makes us happy.
Links to the resources we showed today will be in the resources channel.
Yes, they are. Thank you, sir. All right, and yeah, wrapping up. Thanks for coming out, everyone. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that was the first session. Next week we're gonna be going over some of the basics of game sound, and I know that sounds like it's something that we just covered, like today, but we're gonna be expanding on a lot more of the stuff we talked about today, particularly the different roles. So yeah, we really hope to see you there next week. Next week, same time, same place. Thanks for coming out.